On 2nd December 2018, British backpacker Grace Millane should have been celebrating her 22nd birthday during the trip of a lifetime in New Zealand. Thousands of miles from her home in Essex, the messages and requests for video calls from friends and family kept pinging through to her phone, but they were never answered. Her disappearance made headlines around the world. The day that was supposed to be the happiest of her life turned into the tragic event that claimed her life. She was murdered, and the circumstances surrounding it are truly shocking. Born in Essex, England in 1996, Grace Millane emerged into the world as the youngest among three siblings. Her parents, David and Gillian, were the foundation of her upbringing, alongside two older brothers, Michael and Declan. Grace, characterized by her sociable and lively nature, possessed a profound love for all things creative and artistic. Her educational journey led her to the University of Lincoln, where she graduated with a degree in advertising and marketing. Excitement filled her as she prepared for a new chapter in her life, having diligently saved up for a year-long backpacking tour post-graduation. In October 2018, Grace bid farewell to her family home and embarked on her travels. This adventurous and outgoing graduate explored Peru and spent 6 captivating weeks in South America. Along her journey, she connected with fellow travelers, eager to share her experiences with everyone back home. On November 19th, the 21-year-old Grace arrived in New Zealand alone. 11 days later, she reached Auckland and checked into the base backpackers on Queen Street, sharing a room with fellow travelers. On Saturday evening, December 1st, 2018, Grace left the hostel just before 6 p.m., donned in a knee-length black dress, white shoes, and carrying a small handbag. She had arranged to meet someone she had matched with on Tinder. Initially hesitant about the meetup, Grace eventually made plans for drinks with her date. They decided to meet at Sky City, an entertainment complex featuring bars, restaurants, and a casino. Grace had been exchanging messages with her friend Amina back home, expressing a positive connection with her date, describing him as an oil manager who lived in a hotel. By all accounts, the evening seemed to be going well. Approximately an hour later, they ventured to a place called the Bluestone Room. At some point during their time there, Grace momentarily left the table, and unexpectedly, her date took hold of her handbag and began searching through it. Shortly after 9:30 p.m. on that fateful Saturday evening, they left the bar arm in arm, strolling down the street together. The following day, Sunday, December the 2nd, marked Grace's 22nd birthday. Despite the well-wishing messages and social media outreach from family and friends, Grace unusually remained unresponsive. Both of her phones went straight to voicemail, causing concern among her loved ones. Declan, her brother, noted that Grace had been enthusiastically sharing details and pictures of her trip until then. The absence of any response on her birthday was deeply unsettling, especially considering Grace's strong ties to her family. Her parents took immediate action, contacting the Auckland police and officially reporting her as missing on December 5th. Initially, the police didn't suspect foul play since the majority of Grace's belongings remained at her hostel. It was conceivable that she had chosen to stay with new friends and simply forgot to make contact. However, when the police reached out to the hostel, they confirmed that Grace had not returned on the night of December 1st. Detectives, fortunately, quickly traced Grace's movements on that Saturday evening using extensive CCTV footage from around the city. The mysterious man she was seen with that night was promptly identified. On the very night Grace was last seen, she changed her Facebook profile picture, receiving a comment underneath that read, "Beautiful, very radiant." The person who made the comment was none other than Jessie Kempson, the Tinder date seen drinking with Grace. Jessie Kempson, currently staying at the City Life Hotel in Auckland, had posted a message prior to the comment drawing attention. Extracts from the post expressed remorse for his mistakes, arrogance, and selfishness. But who was Jessie Kempson? At 26 years old, Jesse was born in Wellington and experienced multiple relocations during his childhood following his parents' separation. Raised in part by his grandparents, Jesse became virtually estranged from much of his family. Those who knew him unanimously described him as a pathological liar, weaving fabrications that ranged from claiming to be the cousin of a famous All Blacks rugby player to falsely asserting that he was battling cancer. His compulsive lying extended to employers, landlords, partners, and friends, resulting in frequent evictions from flats and job losses. One former landlord recounted Jesse's claim of being a professional softball player signed by New Zealand's national softball team, the Black Sox. Despite his insistence and excuses, the landlord eventually contacted the Black Sox management, exposing Jesse's lies. Another instance involved him convincing his landlord at the City Life Hotel that he held a high managerial position at Woolworths when, in reality, his rent was covered by state benefits. Jesse's most recent job in telephone sales ended in dismissal on the very day he encountered Grace Millane on December 1st. He was the last known person seen with Grace that night, prompting the police to focus on him as the key figure to fill in the missing pieces. On December 5th, the same day Grace was reported missing, Jesse was summoned to the police station to respond to routine questions.
Tell us about Grace. So I was talking to Grace on Tinder. We'd matched on Friday. I saw that we'd matched the next day on the Saturday.
How did the evening pan out?
Yeah, pretty good. I didn't initially know that she was real.
What do you mean?
Well, there's a lot of... So have you heard of catfish?
No.
So catfishing is where someone uses your profile, or uses your photos and pretends to be you and then meets, and you're a completely different person.
Right.
And it's happened to a few people I know in Australia. And it's all over the TV. So I thought, you know what, if I meet at Sky City, at least I know that there's lots of people around. So if it is someone that it's not, then I can just walk away.
How did the evening sort of come to an end?
There was a hug and a kiss on the cheek, and a thanks, no, nice meeting you. And then I said, let me know about tomorrow. And she said, okay. And then she kept walking.
We actually don't know if she's been murdered or not yet. She may be alive and well.
Okay.
But she might also be dead. Okay? And it could be that you've done it.
Hey, I just want to ask a question. Am I being arrested for something I didn't do?
You haven't been arrested, mate.
Oh.
No.
Oh.
He insisted that nothing extraordinary occurred that night, emphasizing a pleasant conclusion to their date with a hug, a kiss on the cheek, and plans for the following day. Around 10 p.m., they amicably went their separate ways. He claimed to have attempted messaging her on Tinder the next day, only to discover that Grace had unmatched him, abruptly ending their interactions. However, the officers were not done scrutinizing the CCTV footage from the City Life Hotel and were on the verge of uncovering more answers to lingering questions. As they continued their investigation, a sinister and disturbing narrative began to take shape. Almost 6 terabytes of CCTV data were undergoing thorough analysis. Contrary to Jesse's assertion that they parted ways on the streets, footage revealed both arriving at the City Life Hotel arm in arm. They exited the elevator together on Jesse's floor, yet Grace was never observed leaving the building. On what should have been Grace's birthday morning, cameras did capture Jesse leaving the hotel, diligently tracking his movements over the ensuing hours. He left the hotel in the morning and went shopping to purchase a suitcase. Subsequently, he proceeded to purchase cleaning supplies, and just before noon, he took a taxi to a car rental company, securing a red Toyota Corolla. Several hours later, Jesse met with another woman he had connected with on Tinder. She later recounted disturbing conversations with him, including discussions about burying bodies and his friends who were police officers. Feeling deeply uneasy, his date declined. Jesse's offered to get in his car and opted to make her own way home, severing all further communication with him. Following this encounter, Jesse returned to the city centre, this time to hire a Rug Doctor carpet cleaning machine. He explained to the staff that he needed to address red wine stains that required cleaning up. Later, at 9:30 in the evening, Jesse loaded 2 suitcases onto a hotel trolley and subsequently transferred them into the red Toyota he had rented earlier. At approximately 7 a.m. the following day, Jesse was captured on camera once again, this time purchasing a shovel. 2 hours later, he was observed power washing the car. Subsequently, he returned the car to the rental company, and it was later rented out to another individual. On December 5th, the day Grace was reported missing, Jesse was seen visiting various locations and disposing of items in bins. As the police arrived at the City Life Hotel seeking to talk to him, Jesse returned to the hotel. The moment he spotted the police at the front desk, he swiftly turned around and walked away with his head firmly facing the opposite direction. The police immediately pursued him, apprehending him for questioning. Despite Jesse's denials, the police initiated a comprehensive search of his hotel room. Later that night, in a public appeal for the missing British backpacker, Grace Millane, the police held a press conference seeking information on the 22-year-old who hadn't been seen since 7:15 p.m. on Saturday night. David, Grace's father, who had arrived in Auckland, made an emotional plea for assistance.
I'm David Millane, Grace's dad. Thank you for coming today. As you know, Grace has been missing for several days. We last had contact with her on Saturday the 1st of December, and as a family we've been extremely concerned for her welfare. Grace is a lovely, outgoing, fun-loving, family-orientated daughter. Grace has never been out of contact for this amount of time. She's usually in daily contact with either her mother, myself, her 2 brothers, members of the family on social media. She arrived here on the 20th of November and has been bombarding us with numerous photographs and messages of her adventures. We are all extremely upset, and it is very difficult at this time to fully describe the range of emotions we are going through.
The investigation progressed rapidly, and while the police refrained from naming him, they disclosed that they had engaged with Jesse, identifying him as a person of interest. As time passed, apprehension heightened among the public, with the police expressing grave concerns for Grace. On December 8th, as mounting evidence emerged, Jesse was ultimately apprehended and subjected to another round of interviews. At this point, his narrative underwent a significant and conspicuous alteration.
You're willing to speak to us about the events of last Saturday, is that correct?
Yes.
Tell me what happened last Saturday.
She started talking to me about 50 Shades of Grey. We started having sex. At first it was just normal. And then she asked me if we could get into bondage, having, I guess, more violent sex. We ended up on the floor, and then she told me to hold her throat. So I went into the shower, and then all I remember is falling asleep in the shower. I need to stop. I need to go.
Jesse claimed that upon waking the next morning and discovering Grace's lifeless body, he entered a state of shock. Overwhelmed by panic, he hastily placed her remains in a suitcase and drove to a location to bury her. Despite these details, he continued to vehemently deny any culpability.
I didn't know what to do. I went downstairs and I was just, I don't know, I was all over the place.
You come out of the shower,
Yep.
the light's been on in the shower,
Yep.
you put a towel around you, you've turned the light off, and
Yep.
then you've returned to your bed and you've gone to sleep in your bed.
Yep.
And at that point, when you exit the shower, you don't look around, but your assumption from the silence.
I thought that she had gone. I thought she had left.
We're going to head out of here very, very soon, and you're going to take us to where you've buried her.
Yeah.
She will likely be exhumed tomorrow
Okay.
at some point, and after that, a pathologist, a specialist doctor, will perform a post-mortem.
Yeah.
They're very skilled at establishing people's causes of death. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Did you kill Grace Millane? Okay. Jesse Kempson, you're under arrest for the murder of Grace Millane.
The forensic examination of Jesse's room deepened the unsettling narrative, as, despite his efforts to sanitize, traces of Grace's blood stained the hotel room floor. Based on the information provided by Jesse, it didn't take the police long to initiate a search in an area on Scenic Drive near the Waitakere Reservoir. Shortly after 4 p.m. that day, officers discovered a body approximately 10 yards from the road.
The area was identified late last night as a location of interest as a result of our investigative work. I can now advise that a short time ago, we located a body which we believe to be Grace. The formal identification process will now take place. However, based on the evidence we have gathered over the past few days, we expect that this is Grace. The focus now is to piece together exactly what happened to a young girl who came to New Zealand on her OE. Obviously, this brings the search for Grace to an end. It is an unbearable time for the Millane family, and our hearts go out to them. Any father, any parent in this situation will struggle. Yeah, I feel for my other daughter in her 20s. So yeah, we're putting a lot of support around him. It's difficult because he's here with a brother from England and the rest of the family are back home.
Detective Inspector Scott Beard had been leading the investigation and collaborating closely with the Millane family. For him and his team, who had fervently hoped to bring good news and find Grace safe and well, it was evident how deeply painful this moment had become for everyone involved in the search. The grief resonated across the nation, with thousands of people paying tribute to Grace and participating in vigils. New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern publicly extended her apology to Grace's parents and wholeheartedly offered both her personal condolences and the full support of the nation.
I cannot imagine the grief of her family and what they will be experiencing and feeling right now. And my thoughts and prayers are with her father, David, who is in the country, her mother, Gillian, who cannot be here, and her wider family, friends, and loved ones. And so, on behalf of New Zealand, I want to apologise to Grace's family. Your daughter should have been safe here, and she wasn't, and I'm sorry for that. I've advised the family through the police that if there is anything we can do to assist, we are here to help with that.
Following these events, Jesse Kempson faced formal charges for the murder of Grace Millane on December 10th, just 5 days after her disappearance was reported. Jesse appeared in an Auckland court, where he was granted interim name suppression to ensure a fair trial, leading to the blurred-out footage of his interviews for an extended period. After an autopsy, a pathologist confirmed that Grace had been strangled with bruises on her arms and chest consistent with being pinned down. The act would have required considerable force, and the pressure on her neck must have endured between 4 and 5 minutes to be fatal. Around 1:30 a.m. on the Sunday, when Grace lay dead in his room, Jesse conducted various internet searches on his phone, including terms like hottest fire flesh-eating birds and Waitakere Ranges, the location where he would later attempt to bury Grace's body. Subsequently, he browsed through a pornography site and took intimate photos of Grace's deceased body. Over a month after Grace's discovery, hundreds attended her funeral at Brentwood Cathedral in Essex. Detective Inspector Scott Beard, who had overseen the case, flew to England to pay his respects and support the Millane family. 6 days after Grace was laid to rest, Jesse appeared in the High Court and pleaded not guilty. The trial commenced in November of that year, lasting just 3 weeks. Throughout much of the proceedings, Jesse remained stoic, displaying little emotion. Occasionally, he glanced down at court papers or held his head in his hands. Jesse's defense team argued that, although tragic, Grace's death resulted from nothing more than consensual rough sex gone awry. They claimed that Grace had engaged in similar encounters before meeting Jesse, and this instance was a tragic case of sexual misadventure. According to the defense, Jesse panicked and attempted to conceal Grace's body upon realizing that the sexual encounter had accidentally led to her death.
The defence case is that this is not a murder. And that's still what I say to you now. Nothing has changed. It was an accidental death that took place in the context of sexual activities that, if done incorrectly by inexperienced and/or intoxicated people, can go wrong.
However, the prosecution entered the trial armed with a substantial amount of compelling evidence and witnesses. They contended that Jesse did not panic, and this was not a mere accident. It was undeniably deliberate and intentional.
In this case, to have killed Grace Millane, the defendant, gentleman over here at the back behind me, had to have had her under his grip, suffocating her, strangling her is probably the correct term, for a total of 5 to 10 minutes, at some point of which she lost consciousness and would have become under his handhold, unconscious and limp and lifeless, and he had to carry on. And if that's not reckless murder in this country, ladies and gentlemen, somebody will have to explain to me what is.
Do you find the defendant, Jesse Shane Kempson, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
Despite Jesse Kempson's protests of innocence, on December 22, 2019, after just 5 hours of deliberations, he was found guilty of the murder of Grace Millane. Jesse received a life sentence in prison with a minimum non-parole period of 17 years.
You are a large and powerful man. She was diminutive. In those circumstances, Ms. Millane was particularly vulnerable. You were in a position of total physical dominance.
I've always thought that if it wasn't Grace, it was going to be someone. Now, I'm not a psychologist, so I can't talk about psychological profile, but what we do know is he's a liar. You know, a number of times we proved he lied to the police, he lied to others.
The verdict of murder today will be welcomed by every member of the Millane family and friends of Grace. It will not reduce the pain, the suffering that we've had to endure for over the past year. Grace was taken away from us in the most brutal fashion a year ago, and our lives have been, and family have been ripped apart. This will be with us for the rest of our lives. We would like to thank several people. Auckland Police Force, been professional, diligent and thorough all through this investigation. Last but not least, we would love to thank the people of New Zealand. They've opened their hearts to Grace and her family. I cannot express our gratitude enough for all the offers and gifts of kindness that we've received over the last year.
On a daily basis, I torment myself over what you did to my Grace. The terror, and pain she must have experienced at your hands. As a mother, I would have done anything to change places with her. I sit full of guilt, knowing I couldn't help her, but I should have been there. She died terrified and alone in a room with you.
The case stirred widespread public outrage over how Grace's life had been portrayed during the trial and how her death had been explained by her killer. Many felt it was shameful and grotesque, victim-blaming, deflecting blame from the murderer himself. Jesse's family labeled him a pathetic fantasist. His stepbrother revealed how he consistently lied about trivial matters until he had no way out, breaking down, crying, and fleeing when confronted. Following his conviction for Grace's murder in the highly publicized trial, Jesse faced 2 additional trials in the following year. These were judge-alone trials with no jury present. 2 women had come forward to the police upon seeing the blurred images of Jesse after his arrest for Grace's murder, instantly recognizing him and sharing horrifying stories about him. In the first trial in October 2020, an ex-partner detailed the physical, sexual, emotional, and financial abuse she endured while with Jesse. The charges included holding knives to her throat, choking her, coercing her into sex acts, and draining her account of $10,000. Jesse was found guilty of 8 charges and sentenced to 7.5 years in prison. In November 2020, he faced another trial for raping a young British tourist he had met on Tinder 8 months before murdering Grace Millane. He threatened her with violence, saying, "If you don't do this, I will kill you and your family." Jesse was found guilty and received an additional 3.5 years in jail, bringing the total to an extra 11 years to run concurrently with the sentence for Grace's murder.